Hello, and welcome to Spirit Decoded. This is episode 3 on acceptance. This is Morning Moments with Spirit from 9/23/2021. If you want to read along, you can look us up on our Facebook page under Ethos Communing, and then look for the post from 9/23/2021 to be able to go ahead and see everything that I'm reading. If you are new and this is your first time listening, first off, thank you for being here. And please check out our introductory video so you can understand what's happening and what you're actually hearing. I'm very excited about doing this one. I remember when this one came through, it did hit me really hard. There's a lot of information packed into these 5 paragraphs. So when you're ready, let's get started. I'm going to start by quoting the first paragraph and quoting Spirit, quote, "So we bring to you the change of perception to begin to heal your self-created separation. You look to the fact that you desire the approval of those around you as an issue to conquer and to no longer need or want. It becomes a constant battle of push-pull. You attempt to focus on your path, and inevitably you get pulled into doing an action based on people, places, or things for the approval of others. You call this being codependent. Our point in using the word being is just that, is for you to realize that as a state of being, and as we have been revealing to you through these lessons, your state of being is the engine that moves your vehicle into physical experience. If you have a state of being, you're using your will and have your attention firmly fixed on an experience which is a natural extension of a state of being. So what is the answer to this conundrum to solve the constant push-pull of seeking approval of others and your own?" End quote. So they started off with a mouthful here. So first off, the first sentence, right off the bat, a change of perception to begin to heal your self-created separation. I think before we go into what's, the state of codependency as a state of being, the first thing is the opening sentence to bring the attention is that they have a change of perception they're going to recommend that could begin to heal our self-created separation. Now, what is a self-created separation? Sounds good, sounds new agey, sounds like something we want to buy, right? But really, what is that all about? So they've been talking through the previous episodes about the fact that when we connect, we're not connecting to the energy of what is, and the way that we're connecting is leaving us drained and feeling separated. And this begins our issue of not being able to relate to each other and living our lives in a manner that shows that we're disconnected and numb. And we talked also about the fact of how this has brought up problems on this world, from how the madness that we see around us, right up to us destroying our own web of life and relating it back to this pain. So when Spirit says begin to heal your self-created separation, number one, they're placing responsibility where it belongs. Whether we're conscious of it or not really doesn't matter. It's still us doing it, and it's still us that has to stop it. And before we can stop it, the first thing is to realize and perceive that we're actually the ones doing it. So the first sentence is actually really a major promise, and one that I think we should hold them to, which is why I wanted to point that out to you first. So Spirit's going to show us a change of perception that can heal our self-created separation, which means they're going to show us logically in some form or some way how to shift our perceptions so we are actually connected again. That seems important to me. So before we begin this episode and jump into everything else with the first paragraph, let's set that as the foundation of what we're looking for here. So second thing going into it is that they talk about the constant push-pull battle of trying to get rid of codependency, and the fact that we look at it as an issue to conquer and no longer need or want. Well, at least in my experience, those are pretty true words. I come from a background with alcoholics in my background, me being the codependent, coming to terms with that, realizing the pain that growing up in that type of environment left me with many self-defenses that worked well as a child of an alcoholic. You can imagine throwing in being a psychic, being an empath, and having the alcoholic come home and trying to second guess to stay safe their mood and what they want and what they need, and then having those abilities thrown in. Yeah, it got complicated really fast. As they grew out of my life, I was still left with those tools without understanding that, number one, they were tools, and number two, that they were causing me problems at that point in my life. I knew I had problems. I knew people constantly blew up and didn't like me, but I didn't know why. And I didn't understand I was reenacting trauma that was really no longer needed, no longer had a place. I was still reacting from it from just habit. So the first painful step was becoming aware of that, owning it. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't have the words for it. So first step was finding the words for it by observation of looking at my life and seeing the same thing keeps happening again, no matter who I replace, people, places, and things, but I keep getting the same story. The only thing that is the same in each of the stories is me. So the issue must be me, is what I determined. And once you realize that, you begin to observe if the issue is you, then what am I doing to create it? And that's when you start seeing the perceptions that you're putting in and how you're creating your life, because you're actually taking the time to slow down and observe it. Observe it happening. You don't just observe the wreckage once the train crashes. You observe the train getting on the same track every time. That's where the magic happens, when you start to realize that there's an issue. When you get to a point, and I think all of us that have had some personal growth in our life can understand this, that we reach a point where we think mentally that the whole point of getting rid of codependency is to realize it's bad, it's wrong. It's not good for me. I shouldn't be doing this. Equally, we should all be familiar on some level of constantly finding ourselves inevitably back on the trail again. Something will happen that triggers us, a new trigger that we haven't seen before and just became aware of. A new layer of the onion peels back and, oh, look, a new mess to clean up. It becomes ever deepening and continues to grow in a way that we have to clean up the mess and get rid of it. So, but the point is that constant push-pull, and we're of the mindset that we have to attempt to stop the action. That's a solution. Just stop it. Just stop being codependent. If we could just stop being codependent, we could be happy. And it becomes a push-pull reaction of constantly trying to fight the instinct of how we were raised, of being codependent, versus how we choose to live our lives, and understand the difference between the two. Now, the importance with what Spirit says that I want to, for you to try to expand your horizons with this, is that they call codependent a state of being. And that's an important one. In fact, I'll read it again. Our point in using the word being is just that. It is for you to realize that it's a state of being, and as we've been revealing to you through these lessons, your state of being is the engine that moves your vehicle, which is our bodies, into physical experience. So by tapping into a state of being, it means that that's what's creating the codependent reaction. We're seeing it in physical terms of how we're interacting with our life. But Spirit is saying that actually it's a state of being. So the question becomes, since we can only be something, then what are we not being when we're being codependent? Because that goes into change of perception to begin to heal your self-created separation. In order to be in a state of being, of codependency, it begins by being separate, by believing we're separate. Because if we were like a tree in the middle of a forest, just connected to all the other trees around it, it doesn't know about needing the trees next to it approval. It's connected to all of that. It's the simplicity of a state of being, which is why there's that energy when we walk into a forest of just peace, because they are at peace. But you can feel the energy become disturbed if there's a poison there or if the forest gets chopped down. We feel that. But if it's in a natural balance of things, it's connected. And when we walk into that energy, we become connected with time. We feel at peace. So in order to be codependent, it has to, at that point, be founded on a foundation of the fact that you are disconnected and separate. Why else would you need approval of another? It's because you're looking for something else to affirm you instead of being connected. It's because you are separate that you need it in the first place. Understanding that foundation creates a whole thing of what we're really searching for here. The answer, the gem we're trying to get out of Spirit's words, is understanding the mechanics that they're building here. But it really comes into what perception are they going to offer to begin to heal our self-created separation? Because when we use that as a state of being, we will no longer know codependency. We won't understand it. And we'll no longer feel separate. The one thing that you could say about a state of being, and I'll bring this to, how we live our lives to keep it simple. That sounds, what I said was, again, very esoteric. Let me boil that down for you. When we are feeling down and we're feeling depressed and our energy is dense, people would say negative. I don't like the word negative. I like to prefer to say dense, because negative is a way to go ahead and say something needs to be released. You don't need to release it. You need to transform it. There's no releasing. It's expanding. So to me, dense. So if we have a dense energy, at that point, how we view the world around us, we see it through that perception. We experience it through that perception. When we look at the possibilities of what our lives are, there's not much to speak of ho-hum. They're very limited, and they lead back into that state of feeling everything collapsing around us, that sense of denseness, feeling like we can't catch our breath. Eventually, that expands, whether it be next day, next week, or for some, unfortunately, a month later. When it does expand and we feel like we can breathe again, we don't feel that fear, we don't feel that anxiety, and we know we just came out of our funk, our depression. We look at life and it's entirely different as far as what's possible, what we can do, what we can accomplish. Well, it's still life. What's changed between the two? And that's my point to you, is that the only thing that actually shifted was your perception. And that perception that you were perceiving at that moment was a state of being. You were being something. And what you were being was moving your vehicle, your body, through different things, through life, through experiences of what you're capable of, what could manifest, what doesn't manifest. And that's the difference. That's the important here, is that if they're saying that codependent is a state of being, then there's a shift of perception they're offering that could begin to heal our self-created separation. Well, what is that perception, and how does it create a state of being that will cancel out this need for approval and being codependent that Spirit talks about? And we went through last episode talking about whether or not how widespread that is, and how much does that actually affect us in this world. So it puts into a foundation here of, well, this just turned interesting, because that's a big promise by Spirit. Let's go to the next paragraph. And I quote, It is to realize that perhaps the actual issue is not the need for connection with your brothers and sisters, but instead of how you perceive it. Let us start with the basics so you can grasp what we're about to share. What you are learning to understand is your mind. It does not matter if you're in a checkout line at the supermarket, in traffic, or walking calmly in the park to relax. You are experiencing your mind. The point of creation for you that gives you a state of being, whether it's feeling calm, feeling expanded, feeling shame, or fear, is your mind, because you can never leave it or make it separate. You can only give yourself the illusion of being out of your mind, and yet even that experience is still you being in your mind. It is how you experience the universe around you, with or without your vehicle, that you call your body. End quote. That's an important paragraph right there. Let's start with the first sentence. It is to realize that perhaps the actual issue is not the need for connection with your brothers and sisters, but instead how you perceive it. So they're saying that the whole thing for approval, attention, from, with our brothers and sisters from each other that we do with each other all the time, that causes us to become separate and disconnected, is codependency, our word for it, how we would phrase it. And that it's a state of being. And the only reason for it is that we're not actually connected. Now, we came into it, the next step that we put into this was the fact that we try to look at it as something that we have to stop, that need for connection is bad. But we don't really talk about how we're supposed to connect. If you think about that in the books, for anything as far as information that we deal with codependency, all the common stuff you hear, the main focus is understanding codependency, understanding why it's dysfunctional, and stopping the behavior. But it doesn't focus on, okay, well, then how do we connect with people? Well, you're supposed to connect with yourself. Okay, so we need to learn to connect with ourselves. And that is true. The first foundation is a good relationship with yourself, or you can't really connect with others. So it's not like it's off there. But where are the volumes of work talking about experience on the healthy way to connect with our brothers and sisters? In families, in social gatherings, in jobs, in this. It's talked about as ideas, but where is the volumes of work that go into, for example, the denseness of codependency and the collapse and separation and needing another for approval? Volumes worth of information back and forth. Mention of stopping it, getting to the point of understanding it's bad, and then talking about healthy connections, but not volumes of information on how to form healthy connections to each other. We understand that. It said we should do this. I should smile at you when you come through the door at the coffee shop. I shouldn't feel threatened that you came in. I shouldn't judge you. I shouldn't gossip about you with my friend as you're walking across about your skirt, your pants, your shirt, whatever. I shouldn't do those things. But where is the volumes of work in our society showing healthy connections and how to do that? The theories behind it, the principles, the benefits, the stages of growth. Where are the books on that? And the thing of it is it's actually out there, but you know what we do to it? We call it esoteric in nature, which means we don't really understand it, but we feel the truth of it. So we don't really have to do any work to change, because again, it's esoteric. You're not going to get that excuse here. If the principle is going to be talked about, I will break it down into a more unesoteric level. You hear me say that many times. Let's get that out of the clouds and into the world, um, because we really can't afford to have that excuse anymore. And my point to you in bringing up this part of the conversation is that when we talk about codependency, we're really good at breaking that down of knowing into a science why it's bad, why it doesn't work, why we shouldn't do it, why we should know better. But we assume that we should want to connect or know how to in a healthy manner. We know how to do it in an unhealthy manner. We're writing volumes of stuff on that and telling each other to stop it. Just stop it. Well, we have to know how to do that in a healthy way. And when it comes right down to it, we really don't have good experience there. Our world reflects that. So for all the books and all the knowledge that's out there, we really need to look to what we call esoteric on connecting and really shake the dust off the shelf from it and look at it again and in a whole new way. Because the answers have been given to us. We just haven't really been willing to understand it, is my point. So we come into the second paragraph here, and it says that it's not the need for connection with your brothers and sisters. That implies it's natural for us to do so. Now, they haven't come right out and said that yet, but it's not the need for connection with your brothers and sisters. One more time, it's not the need. So we intrinsically are built with the need to connect with each other. That's kind of what that's implying. Now comes the big but in the sentence. Instead of how you perceive it. So the issue is not the need to connect with each other. The issue is how we're perceiving to do it. That sounds kind of important. That sounds like something we need to realize. Because as of right now, when you go through works talking about stopping bad behavior towards yourself, like, for example, codependency, keep harping on that, it will just stop it. It will just stop it. It's bad. Yes, we know it's bad. We've lived through it. But we still can't stop it. Even now, at 52, I still get confronted of, well, isn't that a little bit codependent? Well, crap. And I got to stop what I'm doing and examine my motives and check, my energy I'm projecting. What am I perceiving? How is that working? And clean up my mess if I find something there. So it really comes down to, it's not an issue of the need to connect. We're obsessed with it. We're going to connect. That's what we've been trying to do, and that's the point of what Spirit's telling us. We've been trying to connect with each other. We always do. We'll even connect with someone unhealthy if they're the only ones around because we're constantly trying to connect with each other. We know they're unhealthy. We know they have no answers. And we still feel that need to connect. And we hate ourselves for it. Hate ourselves for it. But no matter where we go or what we do, we're constantly push-pull trying to stop ourselves from connecting to other people. What if that's not the issue? And that's what Spirit's saying here. What if the issue is not connecting, but the issue is how we perceive we have to do it? That's an interesting foundation. That's a page turner. Let's continue. Spirit then goes into the point of talking about, once again, the common everyday stuff that we can really understand. Being in a supermarket, in traffic, walking calmly in the park to relax. They go through all variety of different level of experiences. And I want to make sure I slow down to really point this out and that you grasp this. Checkout line at the supermarket. That's stressful for most people. It's crowded, people are rushing, People are focusing on me, 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 me. Get me out of here. You're watching people be rude to the cashiers for no other reason besides that they're breathing. You feel bad for them. The person that goes ahead and has a full basket and then always, for whatever reason, 20% of the cart has to be handed back to the cashier to say, I don't want this. And you figure this out at the register? And you watch the roll of the eyes as the cash register person takes the stuff and puts it to the side. Stuff like that. Stressful. While we're in traffic, and then walking calmly in the park to relax. And they point out, you are experiencing your mind. And it's an important distinction that they're going to start building a foundation on, which is that we look at it as we are experiencing those things because of where we are and what's around us. Translation, people, places, and things. All of which are outside of us. If it wasn't for you, finger pointed, whatever it is, the person in front of the checkout line, with returning things from their cart, people pushing you in the back with their cart, people being too crowded, whatever it is that's going on in that supermarket line that's stressing you out, it's them. They're causing you the anxiety. You could feel it all around you because they're blaming you too. That's the point of it. It becomes an uncomfortable experience because you're uncomfortable, everyone else around you is uncomfortable, and the person that's actually calm in the middle of it is such a rare thing. We don't even notice that. We just feel all that energy bouncing around us, and all of it is doing one thing. You. Whether you is a person, place, or thing, that's the cause of their focus of uncomfortability. Now we move into the other one of like being in traffic, where someone's at fault. How many times have we gone down the highway and it slows down and it adds half hour to 45 minutes on our trip, and we're crawling along, getting annoyed. This person's cutting in front of that person. This person's running down the side of the highway, trying to cheat the system and being a hazard to everybody else. Oh, I hope there's a cop up ahead for them. Why is there never a good cop when you need one? Blah, 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 blah. And you get to the point of congestion, and it was a person on the side of the road with a flat tire. There was like literally nothing to see here, folks. And everyone just spent 45 minutes backed up in traffic because someone got a flat and wanted to see what was going on. And because of that, traffic's backed up for miles. Stress like that. That's your mind. And that's Spirit's point with all this. And it's going to take some training to get your mind, first off, to see it when it happens, understand what you're seeing, and then really realize, oh my God, I am the cause of my own discomfort. All the times I've been uncomfortable in traffic, all the times I've been uncomfortable at the supermarket, all the times, whatever it is that makes you uncomfortable on a regular basis like that. It's your own mind. You never left it. And that's their point, whether we're feeling calm, feeling expanded, feeling shame or fear, whether we are all the way from the greatest experience of joy and our energy is expanded, we're filled with love, right down to fear and we can't breathe and we just want to knock the nearest person around us because it'll make us feel better. The dense energy. You never left your mind. And you really don't know what the person next to you is experiencing, and they're free, absolutely free, to experience everything from liberation to hell. And it has no bearing on yours. It has no bearing. And you have no bearing on theirs. You have the free will to experience what you will. But whatever you are experiencing, it's a state of being. And by a state of being, you are tied to your creations. You cannot escape them. And that is Spirit's point in there, that you only give yourself the illusion of being out of your mind. And yet, even that experience is still you being in your mind. With the modern day world and how we see things, that's going to take some getting used to. That's going to take some work to begin to build on that foundation and really begin to understand what it is that they're saying. Not from an intellectual standpoint, though that would be a great place to start, and I'm hoping I'm making it simple enough for you to begin to grasp that concept. But in order to really get this, since this is your mind, you're going to have to observe it and experience it for yourself, or you're not going to get this. The only thing that these lessons and breakdowns can do for you is give you the guardrails to hold on to get there. But the truth has to come from inside you by doing the work to realize if there's any truth in what they just said. And it all boils down to, last sentence, it is how you experience the universe around you, with or without your vehicle, that you call your body. It is how we experience life, and here's the important part, with or without our vehicle that we call our body. That means, Spirit just said, that this law of energy, the way that this works, continues to work whether we are in the body or out of the body. And whether you believe we have a past life, whether we leave the body and go someplace else, the point of it is that we continue to exist, and that still works. And that our mind is still malfunctioning perception-wise or functioning perception-wise, our choice. We could still not have a body and believe what is happening around us is the cause of what we experience and not realize we never left our mind. If we are experiencing it, it is a state of being. That state of being is in your mind. You control that. You can change that. So no matter what you're perceiving and how bad that is, it is your mind. And it is your mind that is the source of that state of being and everything you experience from it. Let's go into the next paragraph. This one would be paragraph 3, and I quote, "Here is your source of confusion in this, and you will have to learn to observe yourself to be honest to realize that you do indeed take these actions, and from there, connect how these actions are causing you issues. The actions we speak of is that you do not take the source of your experience as your mind. You take the source of your issues stemming from people, places, and things around you. You make the source of your state of being firmly on the physical phenomena around you." So this one, after what we just discussed, is pretty self-explanatory, but it's important to go over just the same. They've been talking about another state, another perception that can heal our self-created separation. And they're now saying, in order to clear up our confusion, to be open to that, the first thing we need to do is understand the source of our confusion. Unless we understand that and are willing to let it go, bottom line, folks, we cannot perceive what Spirit is going to share with us. Let me repeat that. Unless we accept the source of our confusion, we cannot perceive what Spirit is going to share with us. We can find it interestingly stimulating. We can say, I felt the truth of it as soon as I heard the words. That and a cell phone is going to get you a phone call. It is worthless. It is no more meaningful than flushing down toilet paper after you get done using it, because it has no more purpose other than that. And there are people that are listening that the only purpose of it will be just that, and that's all you're capable of in this lifetime. Okay, great, move on. But there are other people that are hemming and hawing on this, wondering or not, should I take action? Intellectually understanding this information is not going to make it real. If you really want change, then you have to deal with the fact that you're not dealing with these words, this channel or spirit. That is the finger pointing to the moon. Every reaction that you have had to this has been from your mind. We can speak, but whatever you're experiencing is still your mind. That is the beginning and that is the end, because that is what God created. And what you're doing with it, you're doing with free will. And if God won't take away your free will, none of us can. No one can take away your free will. So here we are. You have a decision. Here is your source of confusion, and in this, you'll have to learn to observe yourself, to be honest, to realize that you do indeed take these actions, and from there, connect how these actions are causing you issues. And that sounds really esoteric. Here I go, folks. That sounds really esoteric. It's not. Don't make it complicated because you don't grasp it yet. It's no more different than learning how to hit a baseball with a bat when you were a kid. Someone told you can. Someone put you in front of home base. Someone gave you the bat, told you what to do, and you didn't know if you can do it because you've never done it before. And you may have swung and missed, or you may have been lucky and hit the first time. Either way, through repetitive action of observing the ball and how you swing the bat, you learn to connect. You learn to be able to hit the ball. And you may not have hit a home run, but you learn to at least make contact with it. And you can use this example in whatever way soothes your mind. Whatever's personal to you, when you finally got aha, I get it. I understand now. And you know it intuitively. Not the idea. You know it intuitively. And that's when it really takes off as an action, because you are doing it. Because you get it. That's what's required here. And the first step is owning the fact through observation that you do take actions like the Spirit is describing. And most importantly, connect the actions to the issues currently in your life. And this goes back to what I was saying previously about the whole Buddhist concept, that they look at it as joy and happiness that we go through, which we call really is nothing but materialism, that we call, I'm happy I got a new phone. I'm an electronic freak. I really do love getting new phones. But reality of it is that true happiness? Does that bring me peace? Does that bring me a state of being? No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And when you get down to it, what does the Buddhist focus on? And it's not that you have to be Buddhist, but there's nothing wrong with taking a page out of their book, because I believe they have this one right, which is that if you're acting in a disciplined sense of your mind, of disciplining your mind to be trained, to get out of the idea of separation, then you're looking for moments, like they're saying, that things like this is causing you issues. And why? By seeing it, there's a very common belief, I don't want to see that, I don't want to talk about it because it causes pain. And if it causes pain, we should avoid that. If I could just be positive and go ahead and paint a pretty picture, that will go ahead and remove it. I don't have to worry about all that and be, negative and look at that. I can just go ahead and look at the positive, and the positive will eliminate the negative. And I put my hands in a lotus position and go, bam, it's gone. Good luck with that. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. That's not what positivity is for. And when I stop a moment and really bring your attention to that, you look for the things that are causing you issues. and you look why it's causing a pain. And yes, it does. It's not a comfortable experience when you realize, crap, look at this. What a freaking mess. But then you understand the purpose of it and the tool and the reason why it was there. And when you come to the point of understanding what its purpose was, because it was protecting you, I'll go back to the codependent. When the alcoholic came home, they were drunk. They were angry. They broke furniture. I was a child. What did I know about responsibility or safety? All I knew was that if I can second guess what they wanted, what energy to hold, I can blend with the wall. I won't be noticed. And if I was noticed, I can at least make myself less offensive than other family members so I would not be the focus of their rage. Now, in modern day time as the adult, that poor child, growing up with such a thing, there's that whole idea of compassion and let me give you a hug. Yeah, that's nice, but eventually you have to get on with your life. The gem here that I want to point to you is that it was a tool. Hugging the child is not going to remove the stigma of having that issue. Feeling safe is not going to entirely remove it because it's still a habit. You still don't know any better. It's still in your mind as a feasible option in dealing with an issue. And that's going to work while you feel safe, while you don't feel safe, while you're angry, while you're happy. You're still going to pull on it because it's still listed as a list of options on how to deal with issues that you don't even think about. You just instinctively grab it. And so when you get into that moment of actually looking at it and realizing, oh my God, I did that because it kept me safe. How brilliant was that child? It developed a way to protect itself. And no, I don't like the fact that, if my sister got noticed and she was focused on versus me, then safety. Better you than me. Teaching a child something on that level is like so indespicable in my mind. But I can understand where the child was coming from because life will find a way to survive. Over, under, or through, life is brilliant. The need to survive. It will do what it has to do. And thank God I'm not in that situation anymore. But the point is that it was a tool. And once I realized what it did to protect me, instead of feeling angry at it, which creates resistance, you can't remove something in that type of anger of banishing it. You can't banish your mind. You exist there. It's the only thing you exist in. It is what changes. Nothing else changes. Just your mind, your perceptions. And once I realized how it helped me in all those years, I could be grateful to it. But I can also realize I don't need that anymore. I could evolve. I can choose. I can make something different happen. And in that instant, the universe was open. What do I want? And when you have it happen, or if you have had it happen, I may be putting words to the experience like I've never had words to it that way. But in that moment, when you're grateful for it and fully realize, I don't need this anymore, you feel the universe tap in. Then what do you need? And what do you want? And there is no limits. Create. Make up your mind. Decide a new state of being. What would you choose? And the reason why there's such energy at that time because you're about to define yourself. God has come running. You decide, and God creates with you. It's the way that it works. And when you get into a state of mind where you fully realize this is no longer needed, and you're about to choose a new state of being and discover yourself in a new way. And nothing pulls God faster. Because as you define yourself, it learns about itself. What have you decided? Anticipation. The universe tingles with it. Because you're about to give birth to yourself yet again. And connected to that, that's why we get so excited in those moments. That's why it becomes so clear, so calm, so I'm alive. Because we're connected. It's the way that it works. So finishing up that paragraph, you take the source of your issues stemming from people, places, things around you. You make the source of your state of being firmly on a physical phenomena around you. That is going to be the goal of actually observing and what you need to see and connecting it to what's causing the issues around you. When you're in a supermarket, connecting the rude woman in front of you, who's obviously unwashed, obviously uneducated, wondering whether or not she has enough to swipe after what she bought. Oh, wait, let's use 2 cards. Take this and put this on this card instead. And everyone's waiting. Whatever the situation is that annoys you the most, however it works out for you. And I'm particularly using judgmental terms because in reality, we shouldn't say such things. Our minds do. Can we be real? None of us is walking on water here. Our minds do this and worse. It's okay. None of us are liberated. So let's just be real with it and put the cards on the table. But in those moments that we're having those things and having that happening, those are the prime times to realize this is my mind. This is not the person in front of me. There may be a person in front of me that has all the issues I spoke of, but what I'm experiencing as a state of being from it is my mind and me. It doesn't matter who's in front of me. It has nothing to do with them. My state of being from it is my mind. And when you see your mind pull out to the source in front of you, the person, place, a thing, and you realize the horrible state of being you're in from it, from whatever the situation is, and you learn to observe it and catch it in that moment, and you pull your mind back and discipline it, no, I am my source, and watch those dense feelings evaporate in front of you because you decided not to create them, to end that state of being. You'll understand the importance of observing this because you'll begin to have experience. And that's when a magician says, if that was illusion, what else in my life is illusion? And those are important statements. Let's go into the next paragraph. If you find yourself annoyed at a checkout line at the supermarket, it is because of the people around you being slow, uncaring, rude, fill in the blank, because often your minds use much darker colors to paint a picture for you as to what you perceive of those around you. The point of this example is this. It is not what colors that you are painting the world around you in that situation. You are taught that you should, in quotation marks, be positive and paint with brighter colors in those situations. So you feel better about it. Because this becomes a habit, you continually paint with brighter colors and you feel better about it. So therefore you feel better about yourself and life. Okay, this one's going into some controversial subjects. I was a bit surprised that Spirit went here when this first came through. And I've spent some time really reflecting on it to realize, oh, I see. Okay, I'm starting to get where they're going with it. Because when it came through, it was it was new to me as well. So I'm not going to go into the whole thing about the person in the checkout lane. It's important again to confirm what I said previously. You know, that we use much darker colors to paint the pictures for you as to what you perceive for those around you. And we love when someone says something like an example like this to say, well, we do this at we're at the laundromat. We think this way. Oh, I don't. Not me. Okay. So Saint, whatever your name is out there, I'm talking to you. When do you think negative about someone? Think intense energy around someone? Because if you didn't, you'd be walking on water. Since you're not, and you're still here with us, and when you go to the bathroom, you still got to wipe with the same hand I do. There's somewhere along the line, on some level, that's happening. What level is that? How does that work? I'm painting with very broad colors and purposely being bold with it so the point is not missed. This can go into very subtle colors, but the point is still the same, is that our minds do this in some form or some way. And again, our world is a reflection of it. Because it goes back to the point of our issue with the perception is the problem that's happening with our world, which is why we don't have any solutions to the problems that are happening. Those are the causes. Those are the after effects, but not the cause. The cause is how we perceive, how we think our world actually works. So I'm going to go back into it and point out the fact of we use our minds to think the world around us is the cause of our discomfort. We believe in a phenomena and not understanding our own state of mind and how it works. Now, the interesting point and the controversial point is that Spirit starts talking about the positive paint with brighter colors in those situations. And I'm going to break that down and just put it in real, honest words. What Spirit's talking about here is the power of positivity. It's a bone of contention for them because we think in terms, especially a spiritual new age community and religious communities, that, we need to be positive. We need to be loving. We throw those words around immensely. Think positive, be positive, do positive, be loving, be compassionate. Onward and onward. But when you stop and take a moment and look at the world around us, and of course, it's not all dark. Of course not. It doesn't describe all people in this world. No, of course not. Nothing is ever one extreme or the other extreme. It's normally shades of gray between it. And the question is not whether or not everyone fits into this category or not. The question is what part of you does. It's the only question that actually matters. And in this, we look at the whole point of being positive. So when it comes down to situations where we're being rude, we're, reacting, we're annoyed that we're in traffic, just stop and be positive. Think positive thoughts. Think happy thoughts. However we frame that. And whenever we encounter something negative, we automatically, at that point, think positive thoughts and think that's the solution, that's the answer, is just to be positive. Now, I'm going to stop there and go into the next paragraph for a reason. So before we do, I'm going to read the last sentence again so we understand it. Because this becomes a habit, you continually paint with brighter colors and you feel better about it, so therefore you feel better about yourself and life. And that's pretty much the explanation of positive thinking, is that if we are positive, the more positive we are, we're going to feel better about our life. So therefore we feel better about ourselves and life around us. And we have people that will swear by this, that that's the way that that works. Spirit says, we would point out this truth. Oh, sorry. Spirit says, and I quote, we would point out this truth to you. You have yet to realize the truth we are sharing on this, so you do not know or have experience as of yet. However, if what we are sharing is true and your mind is trapped by your own doing an illusion, then wouldn't the advice of feeling positive instead of negative while in the checkout line at the supermarket be the same as feeling positive versus negative while being trapped in a jail cell? While certainly there is wisdom in feeling positive versus negative in any situation, how does this free your mind? How does this give you the ability to understand the actual source of the physical phenomena you perceive around you? So we approach you and ask if you're ready for a more expansive lesson of the self. Do you want to understand your mind, or do you want to feel more positive about not understanding it? End quote. So that is the final paragraph in this section for the Morning Woman with Spirit, and it is a mind blower. So first off, first sentence, they say that they're going to point out a truth to us, but they're also going to say that we don't have any experience with it as yet, so we're not going to really grasp it fully. However, they say if what they're saying is true, and they do a comparison. So let's just say you're trapped in an illusion. Okay? Now, on the one hand, I'm going to use the experience of, let's just say we are at the car dealership, we've got a full day, we're there to pick up the car, and we just find out that a part didn't come in, they didn't call us, and it's going to take another day. And we really needed that car because we got a list of things that have to get done that day. Okay, begin. How annoyed are we? First off, we had to get a ride to get there. Maybe we took a cab. They didn't bother calling us. Oops, we forgot. So sorry. No part. Go back home. We'll let you know when it comes in where we can begin to work. And somehow you have to schedule your life, your job, everything. Begin your sense of annoyance with it. According to Spirit, while all those things we're dealing with is absolutely true, the experience or the state of being that we're experiencing from it is our mind. And we have control over that. And we can choose what state of being we wish to be. That state of being I described is disconnected. You're not connected to the universe. You're not connected to your source. So therefore, you are spilling out the energy from your cup, from your vehicle, and using your personal energy that the body holds that's supposed to be to maintain its function, holding your spirit through it, its vital energies in that situation, instead of having the universe channel through you. We won't get into what that feels like yet. That's something completely different. But that's the basis, at least for understanding it. So it creates separation, a disconnect from your connection to the world around you. And it is all about you in that moment and who just pissed you off. And how does that mean? What are the consequences? What's the annoyance factor? And how am I going to get to the supermarket to get a bottle of wine so I can get home and relax from this day? So here we are back in the day. So that's an illusion. And we're trapped in it. Because while that's going on, there's still peace around you. There's still eternity. There's still the universe. That knows nothing about these problems. And that's available to connect to have that expanded sense of mind. But you're disconnected from it, and you don't know that. A lot of people hearing this may understand the intellectual concept of that energy, but don't have the experience with it. So that's all they have is the intellectual concept. It's an idea. People say they can promise it and talk about it, but what does that really, as a state of being, feel like? So that becomes a question. But either way, the concept at the car dealership, that's illusion. Again, consequences very real things you physically have to deal with. The state of being you're in from it is the illusion. Let's be clear. So at this point, there you are stuck in illusion. Well, just feel positive about it. Okay, great. So you feel positive about it. You walk away from the counter, you count to 10, you bring yourself back to center, you start thinking positive thoughts, you start thinking happy thoughts, you start doing whatever you have to do to get out of the negative funk, and you're back into a more manageable state. That's great. You feel better. Everything's positive again. I feel positive about life. I feel positive about this. I feel positive about that. I even wish the person behind the counter a great day, which is so much better than going ahead and saying the B word. So congratulations, good for you. Here's Spirit's point in this paragraph. While there is a wisdom in feeling positive versus negative in any situation, how does this free your mind? The concept of positivity as we currently apply it, and it's not that we're applying it wrong, Spirit is saying evolve your concept of it. And that's going to be important. Because a lot of people that use this, not sitting here saying, oh, by the way, you're wrong. Listen to me. I'm saying be open to expanding your concept of it, of learning how to use that tool in a more defining and clearer way. So what Spirit is saying here with this situation is, oh, sure, now you feel positive about it, but there's still going to be something that happens that's going to get your attention that way. So you figure out how to get out of the car dealership, get a ride to the supermarket. You are going to pick up that bottle of wine, and lo and behold, there's a town gossip you haven't seen in ages that you were best friends with in high school, and she slept with your ex-husband. Oops. Begin. There you are, all riled up again. Or you're going to kid me and tell me that you had Christ-like compassion and went up and hugged her. Let's be real. On some level, you felt a sense of disturbance in the force. So there we are upset again. And we apply the positive to be able to get out of it. Applying the positive is a Band-Aid. That's what Spirit is saying. It doesn't help you know the source of the pain. And being positive, while shifts the direction, it doesn't help you understand your mind. Let me read their sentence to you again. How does this give you the ability to understand the actual source of the physical phenomena you perceive around you? Because understand, until you grasp that, until you have that aha moment and understand that's an illusion, oh my God, I get it. It's not real. It's going to continually come up, and you're going to have to continually applying the positive. So it's like the example previously about the pretty pictures over the hole in the wall. Boom, there's a hole in the wall. Okay, let me go ahead and be positive and paint a pretty picture of a flower. Look, it hung over perfectly. Boom, there's another hole in the wall. Okay, let me go ahead and paint another pretty picture, and look at that. It's a beautiful sunset on the beach. I feel so relaxed. Let me grab a bottle of wine. Oops, there's 2 more holes in the wall. Not a problem. Let me get some pretty paint, and I'm going to go ahead and paint a beautiful picture. And we're Bob Rossing our way through all the holes in our walls in our house. And while we feel good about painting the picture, we feel good about placing it, when we stand back and look at all the pictures that are off-centered all over the place because we're not punching the walls evenly, they happen at random. And it doesn't stop the fact that we have to continually painting pretty pictures to put over the holes in the wall, when the real issue is, why are we punching holes in the wall? If we could just stop that, how much energy would we reclaim? Using positivity is a great way to break the cycle of being negative. Okay, so you've worked really hard and you've gone ahead and now you are more upbeat and you are more positive. You're not as negative as you used to be, and it doesn't overwhelm you. I'm about to be sarcastic here. In truth, a great accomplishment. Because as you probably already know, there's a lot of people that don't even get there. But what I'm saying to you as a person in a scheme of looking up that road to walk up the mountain, congratulations, you put your hiking shoes on. Are you ready for a walk yet? Because the path has just begun. That's grade school. And it's time to put it aside for more advanced lessons. And Spirit says that directly. So we approach you and ask if you're ready for more expansive lessons on the self. The fact that the information is coming through is showing that as a group, there's enough in the group mind because of free will. And repeat that. Because of free will, Spirit can now begin offering lessons on this. And you mark my words, you'll start seeing other channels bringing through the same information as mine did. What's coming through is nothing special. They broadcast all over the world, usually at the same time and in different languages. They are way more organized than our broadcast system can be any day of the week. So it's not going to be anything special. You'll start seeing it, other places start popping up. And it's no coincidence. It's because enough of the group mind has changed that the request is there for something more. And there's a world of knowledge that we can learn from Spirit, but we have to have the free will to request it in order to get it. And so they asked the question, are you ready for more expansive lessons on the self? And they end it with a very important statement. And it's one that I want to end this session on for you to really, in silence, because you have to answer this yourself to understand what you want to do. Because you can continue following or you could drop off here, and it doesn't really matter if you're not at the point of really wanting the information for yourself, then it's not going to create the magic effect that it's looking for. And the final sentence to this is, do you want to understand your mind, or do you want to feel more positive about not understanding it? And those are our options. Make a choice. Thank you for listening to this week's episode for episode 3 on acceptance. We're going to get into episode 4 next. Again, please follow us on Ethos Communing on Facebook. That's the page where all of this stuff happens, where I actually put down the channel sessions in writing so you can follow along. I'm also a Reiki healer, so of course I'll be offering Reiki sessions there, as well as readings with Spirit for people. That's getting set up. And as well, please give us a like and subscribe to this channel here in Spirit Decoding so you could be alerted when we release the next episode.